Well, it's great to have all of you with us today. My name is Chris, one of the pastors here, and I just want to give a warm shout out to everyone across all of our locations, those of you connecting with us online right now. We're one church right where you are, and if your first time with us at Tri-County was at one of our Christmas services, it's just so good to have you take another step with us here in the new year. So thank you for giving us a second chance and opportunity, and I hope that as you make your way into the life of Tri-County Church, that it's not just a place you come and just sit, but it's a place where you come and you see it as family, because it's all about us doing life together. Well, we're kicking off this new series titled Shift, Opt for the Exceptional. And I think as we make our way through the time we have together today, it'll make more and more sense about what this entire series is about. But before we get there, well, let's start in 1999. The date, to be exact, was January 31st of 1999. The event was Super Bowl 33, the Atlanta Falcons against the Denver Broncos. The game was epic, especially if you're a Broncos fan. My sister lives right outside of Denver, and she is, a huge Broncos fan. And John Elway, if you remember this Super Bowl, he won his second Super Bowl title, and then in epic form, he retired. I mean, John Elway, the Hall of Famer John Elway. And for some of you, you might care about football. For some of you just don't. But the beautiful thing about the Super Bowl, right? Whether or not you like to watch the game or not, there's another almost as important piece of the Super Bowl as the game. That is the commercials, right? The commercials. And 20 years ago, the commercials were everything. And every year, after the Super Bowl, they actually rank all the Super Bowl commercials. You can find it by every year. They rank them, and they kind of give you, hey, out of all the commercials played, here's the top 5 commercials. In 1999, these were the top 5 commercials. Now, the fifth one, and we'll get there in a moment, the fifth one is the one, personally, I still remember to this day. When I went back and rewatched these commercials this last week, as I watched the top 4, I was like, oh yeah, I remember those. But the fifth one, I've never forgotten. So the number one most watched and highest rated commercial in 1999 Super Bowl was this Budweiser commercial. And it involved the Clydesdales and the really cute Dalmatian puppies. If you remember that, that was the number one ranked. Budweiser actually got the second most highest ranked commercial as well. The third one was a Bud Light commercial, and the Bud Light commercial is hilarious. It was 2 young adult guys are standing at a checkout line, and the camera pans down, and they have 2 items on the conveyor belt. They had a 6-pack of Bud Light and a roll of toilet paper, and they only had enough money for one. The next moment, you see the Bud Light going down the conveyor belt, right? The guy at the end who is bagging all the groceries, right, at the end asks a simple question. He goes, paper or plastic? And they go, paper, 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 right? Hilarious, right? The fourth highest ranked commercial was a FedEx commercial, and it had everything to do with the Stanley Cup. And so they were trying to deliver the Stanley Cup to the Red Wings at Joe Louis Arena, which now is interesting, right? It's not even open anymore in Detroit. They have a new arena, but they're trying to deliver the Stanley Cup there. And they chose not FedEx, they chose some, off-name delivery company. And next thing you know, the Stanley Cup is arriving in some small village in Bolivia, right? So that's the fourth rank. But again, it's the 5th ranked commercial, to this day. When I went back and watched those, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember those. But this 5th highest ranked commercial is one that I've never forgotten. I've actually used some of these lines many times over the last 20 years. It's one of those commercials that on one side you kind of laugh, you will, and on the other side, it's kind of tragic. And I think that's why it's so memorable. One moment you're like, oh, that's cute and that's hilarious. And then the next moment you're like, oh, but I don't know what I feel. Well, this is the 5th highest ranked commercial in 1999.
When I grow up, on a file all day.
I want to claw my way up to middle management. Be replaced on a whim.
I want to have a brown nose.
I want to be a yes man.
Yes woman.
Yes, sir. Coming, sir.
Anything for a raise, sir.
When I grow up,
I want to be underappreciated.
be paid less for doing the same job. I want sunshine blowing up my dress.
Right? Like, one breath you want to laugh. You're like, that's hilarious. And the next thing you're like, oh, but I kind of feel weird inside. Because here's the thing. All of us, right? All of us had this moment in childhood, as a teenager, maybe into our college years, right? You have these amazing dreams of what you want to be one day, what you think your life is going to look like one day. Like, one day it's going to be. And something happens in life, doesn't it? So, and at one point, you kind of start to look back and you're like, I never would have scripted my life to turn out like this. So how would you fill in this blank? I want to live up. What adjective, right now, get, it's up to you, get an adjective in your brain. What would you put right here? I want to live what would it be? Because I'm pretty sure, no one as a child said, I want to climb the ladder up to middle management. Right? Like, I don't think that's anyone's dreams. So what would you put right here? What I want to live up. Got that word? I'm confident, really confident. At all of our locations, I'm really confident that none of you picked this word. I want to live a subpar life. Woo! I want to take the bar of excellence and lower it as far as I can. I want to excel in excellence at being the worst at everything in life. Like, I want my friends and family to look at me and like, wow, that's a loser, right? Like, I'm pretty sure I hope none of you picked that word, right? I'm pretty sure none of you picked this word. I want to live a mediocre life. Not subpar. You're going to raise that bar a little bit higher. I want to be average. I don't want to be great. I don't want to be bad. I want to be right in the middle of the pack, right? I don't want to excel at anything. I don't want to fail either, but I just want to be right at status quo, right in commonplace with all the other common people. I want to be vanilla. I'm pretty sure, again, none of you were like, oh, yeah. This is the one word I chose for my life. I think, and again, it's not the specific word, it's the genre of words. I think most of you, if not all, picked a word somewhere around this word. I want to live an exceptional life. Right? When you think about the one life that we all have to live, right? One life. I mean, we know when it started. I hope you know what your birthday is. If you don't, then maybe you picked subpar. Right? But like all of us, right? We know when life started. We're not sure when life ends, but I think all of us want to live a life that makes a difference, that makes an impact, that actually does something positive, that one day we can look back and go, wow, my existence on this planet was worth something, right? I think all of us somewhere has a word in this genre. Again, maybe it's a completely different word, but it's connected in here. I want to live a life of meaning. I want to live a life that makes a difference. I want to live a life that makes an impact. I want to live a life that one day when I'm gone, people will notice, not because I'm not here, but because of how I leverage the one life that I have, that we all want to live an exceptional life. I mean, we got one chance. It's not like we get a do-over. But here's the thing. We can stare at this word here, and that's an important word. But for me, that's not the most important word. It's actually these two words. I want. Because there's a dramatic difference between I want and I will. And here's what we know. I want does not equal I will. I mean, there's a whole list of things that I want. I want six-pack abs. Some of you are laughing way too much. You're trying to control it because you're like, I can't laugh at his face. I'll wait until afterwards, right? How do you know I don't have them? Yeah, right? Right? There's a whole list of things, and we're in the new year, right? A new year, 2019. And I'm sure, like, many of you, like me, like you have your 2019 resolutions. This year is going to be different, right? But here's the thing with resolutions. They're all about I want tos. I want to get in shape. I want to get out of debt. I want to have better relationships. I want to make a different step in my career path. I want to, right? Resolutions are all about I want tos, but I want tos never lead to I will. I want tos leave us staying where we are. And this shows itself in every area of our life. So as I was thinking through this, I'm like, well, I'm just going to pick on one area. It is 2019, it is a new year, and I'm pretty sure all of us have some type, whether you wrote them down or not, some type of health, fitness, eating goal, right? You like it's a new year, and maybe it's just because you came through Thanksgiving and Christmas and you had no self-control, right? So now you're like, I got to do something, right? And even if you're in great shape, you have your 2019 fitness goals. And so we see this I want does not equal I will. Well, in the fitness industry understands this principle, and it is now a multi-billion dollar industry because they understand that I want does not equate to I will. Here's what the fitness industry, the gym industry knows, that only out of all of their members, the average attendance in a week going to the gym is 2 times. So if you have a gym membership, the average person, now there's some people that go 13 times a week, and right now some of you are going, is that even possible? Yes, there's people that go twice a day. I know that might sound foreign, but the average person goes 2 times a week, average. The fitness industry understands this. So when they go to sell memberships, here's what they know. What they know is 18% out of all their memberships they sell, 18% of those people will go consistently, which means 2 times a week. They know that, which leads 82% of the people who buy a membership do not go consistently. And I'm guilty of that. When I first moved here, I bought a membership, a family membership to the YMCA. Do you know how many times I've gone in 2 years? 2. Not 2 times a week. I'm just saying in totality, 2, right? I'm like, yeah. Now I do other things. I run and I cycle and I do other things, right? But still. And here's kind of how I rationalize this. I'm like, well, I'm supporting a really good cause. And maybe one day I'll start going a little bit more consistently. I'm part of the 82%. And here's the thing, I'm not the only one. The facts show, right? It doesn't matter what state, what county, what city, doesn't matter. 18%, that's the number the gym industry understands. And so here's what they do. Since they realize that, they take how many ever people can max out their facility. Their gym can hold 500 people, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, whatever that number is, max capacity, they will sell 10 times the number of memberships. Because the data doesn't lie. Why? They know there's a difference between I want to, I'm gonna buy a membership and I want to go to the gym, and I will. They understand that, well, 82% of the people want to. Only 18% of the people will. It's a difference. You walk into some gyms and they will have on their wall their big mission statement. And I've been in multiple gyms around the country, and you'll walk in and they'll have it plastered on the wall. And usually their mission statement as a gym is something about, partnering with you to help you be in the best shape or have the best physical health, right? It's something motivational about why you as an individual are there, right? And you walk in and you see this motivational phrase, you're like, yeah, I'm here, right? It motivates you. But in all reality, you know what every gym's mission statement, they should put this on their wall. Every gym's mission statement should be this. We exist for people who want to work out but don't. Because it's true. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry based on the fact that I want to is different than I will. And again, not just in our physical life, our financial life, our career life, those goals that you're like, this year I'm going to do. In every area of our life, there's a difference between I want to and I will. And that's why we have to move from I want to live an exceptional life, because that's not going to move you anywhere. You got to get to the I will live an exceptional life. And better than this statement, and this is just an anchor foundational idea, thought for this entire series, because even I will leaves rooms for I won't. The whole point is I am living an exceptional life. Because once you actually are living an exceptional life, well, then life actually starts to look exceptional. So in this series, we're going to be looking at some words of wisdom. And actually in the Jewish ancient text, we call it the Old Testament, they actually have 5 books that are classified as books of wisdom. One of them is the book of Job, and it is Job. So I know some of you are like, oh, I thought it was Job. And that's okay if you called it Job. I understand that. But it's Job. It's about a guy named Job, and it's a story about his life. And if you've ever read through the story of Job, you know it's a pretty tragic story of just, difficult moment after difficult moment after difficult moment. You might be wondering, well, why is it a book of wisdom? Well, because you see so much wisdom surrounding this guy's life through the difficult moments and the good moments and good friends and bad friend moments, and that God was with them through the entire journey. Another book of wisdom is Psalms. And Psalms is actually written by many, many different authors. A lot of people just kind of say, well, King David wrote all the Psalms, and he wrote the majority of them. But there was many different authors. Moses wrote Psalm 90. Solomon wrote 1 or possibly 2 Psalms. And then there's a list of other people that wrote the rest of the Psalms. And so it's really a collection of people writing these lyrics of wisdom. The other 3 books, Ecclesiastes, Proverbs, and Songs of Songs, are all highly connected to King Solomon. And what's fascinating about King Solomon is King Solomon's dad was King David, and King Solomon's mother was Bathsheba. And if you know anything about that story, if you don't, you need to read that story, because it's a story of scandal. And the beautiful side of that is what God does in all of our lives, because all of our lives entail scandal at some level, and how God uses scandalous people when they turn back to him to do something amazing in their life. And so Solomon, he wrote Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is such an incredible viewpoint into life. And Solomon's a guy that had all the wealth, all the fame, all the power. King Solomon had it all. And he still wrote from this perspective about how difficult life really is, and his entire summation of the difficulties in life from a guy that has everything, because we like to convince ourselves if we had more of, then life would be better. Right? If I had more money, if I had a better position, if I had a different, and you fill in the blank, we convince ourselves that if I had something different, then life would be better. And Solomon had it all and said, no, life is just life. And Solomon's summation is like it's all about God. It's all about God. He wrote Song of Psalms, which is one long poem, and it's a conversation between husband and wife. And I tell you, just that poem itself, if you're married, looking to be married, it's one of the wisdom found here for marriage is so important. And then he wrote Proverbs. Now, Proverbs in ancient times, this is very common across all different nationalities. It wasn't just Solomon writing these Proverbs. The Proverbs, these short pithy little statements filled with wisdom. And it was just culture after culture after culture had their Proverbs. But King Solomon actually collected these. And here's what we know is King Solomon wrote the vast majority of these Proverbs. The last 2 chapters were actually written by 2 other people that have just been kind of lost in history. We don't know who they are. And then there's a couple moments throughout Proverbs that you can tell Solomon was pulling in some Proverbs from other nations, this wisdom that he was bringing together. But the book of Proverbs in the ancient Jewish text, or Old Testament, is God's guidance, God's direction to help us make wise choices in life. And so throughout the series, we're just going to pull from this wisdom to help us live an exceptional life. So Proverbs starts out like this. Their purpose is to teach people wisdom and discipline. Now, these 2 words are so foundational for understanding the entire book of Proverbs, this collection of wisdom, right? So the word wisdom here has this entire connotation of a skilled carpenter or a skilled person at any trade, you name the trade. And what the word picture is that someone has gained so much knowledge about their trade, about their skill, that they're an expert about it. It's about the knowledge to be able to do something. But then the second word is discipline. And the 2 words that wrap around discipline is strict practice and correction. And that's fascinating when you think about it. Because you need the knowledge to know how to do something, but you also need the practice and the correction. If you've ever coached before, you understand that these 2 components are essential for coaching. And when you've been around a good coach, or if you've coached before, like you just know that you need both the wisdom, the knowledge to teach the game, but also the strict practice and the correction around what you're teaching. I started teaching my oldest, Kiera, soccer when she was about 4 and a half. She was the only girl on an all-boys team, but at age 4 and 5, right, it didn't really matter. And I coached her for many, many, many years. And I remember this time where all of a sudden they introduced the offside rule. And it was like, okay, now I'm teaching the offside rule. And if you've ever been around soccer before, it's probably the hardest rule to teach and to coach. And if you've just gone to watch soccer games, if you've never played soccer before, I'm always in the stands and I'm trying to help explain to people the offside rule because there's layers of complication to it. And I started to teach these girls the offside rule. And it was both teaching the wisdom, the rule around offsides, but yet there was still practice. And we practice it and correction. And I would pull players off the field during games when they were offsides at a young age. Why? Because they had to understand the rule. I'll never forget one time I wasn't coaching, I was watching a high school soccer game. And there was a senior on this team. And I stopped counting when she was offsides 12 times. 12 as a senior. My blood was boiling for several reasons. One, the parents in the stands were just so horrible. I mean, that was a thing, right? I'm like, I'm feeling for this girl. But I'm staring across the field at the coach going, Coach, pull her off. You got to correct this. I mean, not at 12. I'm talking at her second offside. She's a senior. She should know this. Well, and the other team was doing this offside trap. I get that. But again, this is coaching. Like, as soon as you know a team's well coached on the offside trap, you tell your front line, hey, you got to watch it. They are pulling up. You got to watch it. And she was never pulled off. She was never corrected. And then I felt sad for her because I'm like, as a senior, she should know. She should know. How many coaches had failed her? Right? Here's the thing. It's both wisdom, the knowledge of, and discipline, the strict practice and correction. And those 2 words will come up over and over again to help them understand the insights of the wise, to help them understand, to distinguish between the good choice and the not so good choice, the right way and the not right way of the wise. And that's going to be a category of people that Solomon keeps on coming back to. It's like there's wise people. It's a category. It's a bucket of people. They're wise. Another purpose is to teach people to live discipline. There's a discipline word again, okay? Remember, discipline. Correction, strict practice. Got to put it into action. And successful lives, right? To have exceptional lives, to help them do what is right, just, and fair. The idea around right is this word righteousness, meaning conforming to God. God's standard, God's will, God's direction, God's plan. To say, hey, it's about wrapping yourself around not other people, but God, reflecting who God is and what God has designed for you, how to live. And the just and fair. And just and fair, these two words are all about decision making. Making wise decisions, fair decisions. The decisions that just, when you make, you're like, yeah, that's the right decision. And then Solomon's going to kind of give us three groups of people that he's kind of targeting. He says these proverbs will give insight to the simple. The simple, now this won't feel good, but I'm sure you know someone that fits the simple category. Simple is the gullible, the naive. Do you know gullible and naive people? All of us do, right? They're the people that keep making the same dumb decisions over and over again, and you're like, really? When are you going to stop? The simple, the naive are the people that get themselves into financial debt because, they are a marketer's dream come true. They are a salesperson's dream come true. They go to a mall, and you know the kiosk down the middle of the mall? I'm not talking about malls in our cities. I'm talking about malls in big cities. Just want to be clear, right? Right, the kiosk, and there's people, they're working you, and they, the simple, are the ones stopping at every kiosk, and next thing you know, they have bags full of this stuff. They're like, hey, do you know what this can polish? And you're like, really? You don't need that, right? The simple are the people that will say, well, I just trust people. Well, not everyone is trustworthy or worthy of your trust. When Solomon says, hey, we'll give insight, a better word is shrewdness to the simple. Like there's a wisdom where you shouldn't trust everyone, even in church. And I know that feels weird, but I'm just telling you, just because someone goes to church doesn't mean you should trust them, right? To trust them means that they're worthy of your trust. And someone's like, I'm going to give shrewdness to people that are gullible and naive. He goes on, he goes, knowledge and discernment to the young, to adolescents, to teenagers. To say, you know what, I'm going to give them, again, knowledge, wisdom, continual learning, and discernment, that they'll be able to make the wise choice. Then he says this, he goes, let the wise, those who would classify themselves as wise, listen to these proverbs and become even wiser. He's like, even if you put yourself in this category, this bucket of wise people, guess what? That never stops. That never stops. That never stops. But here's what we know, and this is true. You can grow older without growing wiser. You can mature without maturing. Wisdom doesn't necessarily come with age. Just because you have more gray hair and wrinkles, I'm in that category, doesn't mean you have become wiser. And we can see this in other people. That person where you're like, I can't believe they have made bad financial decision after bad financial decision after bad financial decision, bad relationship decision after bad relationship decision. At what point, right? Have you ever thought, as you're having a conversation with someone, going, when are they ever going to learn? You can grow older without growing wiser. You can mature without maturing. Well, then he goes on, he goes, let those who understand receive guidance. That's a great word picture, this word guidance in the Hebrew, of a sailor holding onto a rope, and this rope is attached to a mast. And this sailor, they're in charge of guiding the ship, making sure it's going in the right direction, making sure it's going to stay off the rocks, making sure it's not going to veer into the side of a cliff, right? It's guidance. It's holding onto that rope, applying so much pressure to make sure it's going to go where you need it to go by exploring the meaning in these proverbs and parables, the words of the wise, and their riddles. And then Solomon, this is all at the very beginning of Proverbs. He's going to give kind of the motto for the entire book, the entire collection of these little short, pithy phrases of wisdom. But there's two parts of this kind of motto. One really positive and one not so. And I always like to end on the positive one. So we're going to look at the second part of the statement because it says, but fools, and there's the second category, right? Throughout Proverbs, there's the wise and the fools, right? And the word fools, right, it doesn't feel good. But you're in one or the other category, one or the other bucket. And he goes, but fools despise what? Wisdom and discipline. Despise knowledge, continuous. You've never arrived. If you're a skilled carpenter, if you're skilled at any trade or anything you do, you understand you've never arrived. Here's what I know. One of the skills that I use every week is communication. I spend 30 hours every week, both writing a message. I write a 12 to 17 page term paper every week, then get ready to deliver. And I'm always understanding that I can always get better. But fools despise wisdom and discipline, correction and strict practice. And that's a category of people. And it's both and. You can't go, oh, I like wisdom, I just don't want to do the practice thing. No. It's both of those. You can't even go, well, I like the practice, I just don't like the correction. But before Solomon said this, this really is the motto of the entire collection of Proverbs. He goes, fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge. And I love this word fear. Because so many times, like in our day and age, in our culture, we hear the word fear and our mind goes to like the clown in Stephen King's It, right? Like, I hate clowns. But that's not what Solomon was saying. It's such a beautiful word in the Hebrew because there's a dual action to this word fear. And it's at the same time. One part, when you're in the presence of God, the almighty, all-powerful, perfect, holy God, fear of the Lord says you're in God's presence and it pushes you back on your heels. Why? Because you're in the presence of God. And in the same action as you're being pushed back on your heels because you're like, oh, I'm in the presence of God. In the same action, you're leaning into his warm embrace because he's God the Father. That's what Solomon's saying. When you're in the presence of God, it pushes you back in awe and reverence, and in the same breath, he's wrapping his arms around you because he's God the Father. Fear of the Lord is a foundation of knowledge of the wise. So, I won't shift you to the exceptional life God intends for you to live. It doesn't matter what you want to. I'm just telling you. This whole series. Next week, we'll get to next week in a moment, but I'm just telling you, just because you want to does not mean it's going to shift you to live an exceptional life. And even I will, it's not going to, because there's a massive step between I will and I am. So my hope and prayer for all of us is that we can say, I am living an exceptional life. Well, on January 1st, we launched something. If you were part of our countdown series online last week, it was such a fun, incredible weekend. We mean it when we say we're one church right where you are. And so all of our physical locations joined our online location, and it was a great weekend. But we launched something called 19 for 19. And if you've missed this, it's not too late. I just want to encourage you to join us. And you can go to tcconline.info. You can go to our Tri-County Facebook page. And you can click on the links there. But we have a website, 19 for 19. And what we've put together is 19 days of 19 Proverbs. Our team here at Tri-County, incredible team. And we shot 19 90 to 2-minute videos that just kind of quickly break down a proverb. And then there's a quick read and then an action step. All of it might take you 3 minutes. I'm just telling you, we did that on purpose because, we didn't want someone to go, I just don't have 30 minutes every day. 3 minutes, that's all it will take you. But the most important part, the videos are great. The team did great. The short little devotional writing that goes with the video, that's great. The most important part of 19 for 19 isn't the video and the devotional writing. Everyone is the action. And every day there's an action. And my challenge for you is don't consume content without doing the actions. Wisdom and discipline. Wisdom is the video and the writing. The discipline, strict practice, correction is the action. Don't do these without doing the actions. I'm just telling you. The wise understand. There's both of those together. Well, next week, we're going to answer this question. You're going to love this question. Why do we know the right choice and still make the opposite choice? Why do we know the right things to eat, but choose the opposite? Why do we know the right financial decision, yet still choose the opposite? Why do we know the right relationship to be in, but we still choose the opposite? Why do we, something within all of us, why do we know? We just know. And still do the opposite. That'll be part 2 of shift off for the exceptional.